The Westbridge Country Club had been my family's social headquarters for as long as I could remember. 18-hole championship golf course, Olympic-sized pool, tennis courts that hosted regional tournaments, and a dining room where business deals worth millions were negotiated over perfectly aged steaks. I'd grown up here in a way, attending debutante balls, anniversary celebrations, graduation parties. Always as the overlooked younger daughter, the one who didn't quite fit the family mold. My sister Vanessa, 35, was everything our parents wanted. Ivy League educated, married to a corporate attorney, volunteer coordinator for 3 prestigious charities. She wore designer clothes like armor and knew exactly which wine to order with every course. I was the disappointment. I dropped out of college after 2 years, worked a series of concerning jobs, barista, retail manager, administrative assistant, and showed up to family events in clothes from Target instead of Neiman Marcus. Today, I'd made the mistake of arriving at the club for Sunday brunch wearing jeans, a casual blazer and comfortable flats. My parents were already seated at their usual table on the terrace when I walked in. Dad saw me first and his expression curdled like milk left in the sun. "Absolutely not," he said loudly enough that nearby tables turned to look. "You are not sitting with us dressed like that." I stopped a few feet from their table. Mom set down her mimosa and stared at me with open disapproval. "Emma, what are you wearing?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Clothes," I said simply. "You invited me to brunch." "I invited you assuming you dress appropriately. This is the Westbridge, not a shopping mall." Vanessa appeared from the direction of the ladies' room, immaculate in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to cost. She saw me and actually stopped walking. "Oh my God," she said. "Emma, are you serious right now?" "About what?" "About showing up here looking like that." She gestured at my entire existence. "This is a members-only club. There's a dress code." "I'm aware," I said calmly. Dad stood up, his face reddening. At 62, Richard Hartley was still an imposing figure. 6'2", silver hair, the kind of commanding presence that came from 40 years of running a successful commercial real estate firm. "This is embarrassing," he announced. "My daughter shows up to the Westbridge Country Club in jeans and bargain bin clothes. Do you have any idea how this reflects on me? On this family?" "I'm wearing a blazer," I pointed out. "A blazer from where?" "Walmart." "Actually, yes." Mom made a sound like she'd been physically wounded. "Emma Catherine Hartley, you will leave this club immediately and return when you're appropriately dressed. Or better yet, don't return at all." Several other families were watching now, including the Vandermeers, whose daughter had gone to prep school with Vanessa. I could see Mrs. Vandermeer whispering to her husband, probably relishing this display of family dysfunction. "I was invited," I said quietly. "You called me Thursday and specifically asked me to join you for Sunday brunch. I assumed you'd have the common sense to dress properly," Mom snapped. "Clearly I overestimated you." Again. Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice but not enough. "Emma, you're making a scene. Everyone's staring. Just go home, change, and maybe we can salvage this." "I drove an hour to get here." "Then you should have thought about that before leaving the house looking like a homeless person." That comparison hung in the air like poison gas. Dad gestured sharply toward the entrance. "Leave. No. Before you embarrass this family any further." "I haven't done anything," I said. "Your presence is the embarrassment," Mom said coldly. "Walking into the Westbridge dressed like you're going to clean houses, not have brunch. What will people think? That I'm your daughter? Not if I can help it." Mom's eyes were ice. "We have a reputation here. Your father sits on the club's board. Vanessa is being considered for the social events committee. And you show up looking like this. It's disrespectful." I stood there, absorbing the familiar sting of their disapproval. This wasn't new. I'd been the family disappointment since I'd dropped out of Duke University 10 years ago, choosing to work instead of finish a degree in something I hated. They'd never asked why I left. Never wondered if I was okay. Just decided I was a failure and treated me accordingly. "I'll speak to the manager," Dad said, pulling out his phone. "Have you escorted out if necessary." "Dad, that's not." "Do not argue with me." His voice carried across the terrace. "You've humiliated this family enough for one day." He walked toward the main building, presumably to find someone in charge. Mom and Vanessa returned to their table, deliberately turning their backs to me as if I'd already ceased to exist. I could have left. Probably should have. Instead, I followed Dad inside. The Westbridge Country Club's main building was all marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and oil paintings of founding members from 1923. Dad was already at the concierge desk demanding to speak with management. "There's a situation on the terrace," he was saying to a young woman in a crisp uniform. "My daughter arrived inappropriately dressed and I need her removed from the premises." The concierge looked uncomfortable. "Sir, if she's your guest." "She's not my guest anymore. I'm revoking that invitation. She needs to leave immediately." "Let me get the manager for you, Mr. Hartley." She disappeared through a door marked private, and Dad stood there radiating self-righteous anger. He didn't even look at me, just checked his Rolex and tapped his foot impatiently. A moment later, the concierge returned with someone I recognized. Patricia Odom, the club's general manager. Mid-40s, sharp-eyed, professional in a way that commanded respect. "Mr. Hartley," Patricia said with practiced courtesy. "How can I assist you?" Dad pointed at me. "That is my daughter. She arrived dressed completely inappropriately for this club. Jeans, cheap clothes, absolutely unacceptable. I want her removed from the property." Patricia looked at me, then back at Dad. "I see. And you're requesting we escort your daughter off the premises?" "Immediately. She's violating the dress code and embarrassing my family." "I'm on the board, Patricia. You know how important appearances are here." "Indeed." Patricia's expression was neutral, professional. "And this is your formal request?" "To have her removed." "Yes. Get us the owner if you need authorization. I want this handled now." Mom and Vanessa had followed us inside, probably to watch my humiliation firsthand. Mom crossed her arms. "This is exactly why we stopped inviting you to family events, Emma. You have no sense of decorum." Vanessa added, "Honestly, it's like you try to embarrass us." Patricia held up one hand. "One moment, please." She pulled out her radio. "Security to the main lobby, please. And can someone locate Ms. Hartley for me?" Dad looked satisfied. "Thank you. It's unfortunate, but standards must be maintained." "Absolutely," Patricia agreed. "Standards are extremely important." 2 security officers arrived, both in professional suits rather than traditional guard uniforms. The Westbridge prided itself on understated security, keeping problems invisible to the members. "Wait here, please," Patricia said, then disappeared through another door. We stood in awkward silence. Dad checked his phone. Mom examined her manicure. Vanessa scrolled through Instagram, probably already composing a message to her friends about her tragic sister's latest disaster. I waited, my heart beating faster than I expected. Patricia returned after 3 minutes, but she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by a woman in her 60s wearing an elegant pantsuit. Catherine Brennan, the club's director of operations and the person who actually ran day-to-day management. Behind them was someone else. My assistant Jordan, carrying a leather portfolio. "Mr. Hartley," Catherine said formally, "I understand you've requested the owner's intervention regarding a dress code violation?" "Yes," Dad said, looking pleased that they were taking this seriously. "My daughter is dressed inappropriately and I want her removed. If the owner needs to sign off on this, fine. But it needs to happen now." Catherine nodded slowly. "The owner is here, actually. Ms. Hartley, would you like to address this personally?" She was looking at me. Dad followed her gaze, confused. "What?" Patricia stepped forward, speaking clearly for everyone to hear. "Mr. Hartley, allow me to properly introduce Emma Hartley. She's the owner of the Westbridge Country Club. She purchased the property 8 months ago through Hartley Hospitality Group." The silence that followed was absolute. Dad's face went blank. "What?" "Your daughter," Catherine continued, "owns this club. She owns the property, the facilities, the membership contracts. Everything." Mom actually took a step backward like she'd been physically pushed. Vanessa's phone slipped from her hand and clattered on the marble floor. "That's impossible," Dad whispered. Jordan stepped forward with the portfolio, opening it to reveal documentation. The purchase was finalized on February 15 through a corporate acquisition. The previous ownership group was hemorrhaging money, mismanagement, outdated facilities, declining membership. Ms. Hartley acquired the property for $14.7 million and has invested an additional $8.2 million in renovations and operational improvements. He handed the papers to Dad, who stared at them like they were written in a foreign language. The new tennis courts? Jordan continued. Ms. Hartley's investment. The renovated dining room? Her capital. The expanded spa facilities that just opened last month? All part of her strategic modernization plan. Dad was reading the documents, his hands shaking slightly. Emma. This can't be real. It's real, I said quietly. I've owned the Westbridge for 8 months. I just haven't announced it publicly yet. But how? Mom's voice was barely audible. You work retail. You're a manager at some store. I worked retail 7 years ago, I corrected gently. Then I moved into hospitality management. Started consulting for struggling properties, helped them restructure and increase revenue. Built a reputation. Started buying properties myself. Small hotels first, then restaurants, then event venues. Patricia added, Ms. Hartley's company owns 14 properties across 3 states. The Westbridge is her largest acquisition to date. Vanessa found her voice, though it came out strangled. 14 properties? You own 14. 15 now, Jordan interjected. We closed on a boutique hotel in Asheville yesterday. Ms. Hartley flew back this morning specifically to make this brunch. Dad was still staring at the paperwork. At the signatures. At my name on legal documents that proved everything they were saying. Why didn't you tell us? He asked. I looked at him. My father who just tried to have me thrown out of my own property. When would I have told you, Dad? At Christmas when you spent the entire dinner talking about how Vanessa's volunteer work was real contribution to society? Or at Easter when you told everyone I was still figuring things out? That's not fair, Mom said weakly. Isn't it? I turned to her. You've spent 10 years treating me like a failure because I didn't follow the path you wanted. I dropped out of Duke so I was a disappointment. I worked retail so I was beneath you. I didn't marry a lawyer or doctor so I was an embarrassment. We were concerned about you, Vanessa tried. You were ashamed of me, I corrected. There's a difference. Catherine cleared her throat gently. Ms. Hartley, you mentioned wanting to review membership contracts today? Yes, I said, grateful for the transition. Can you pull up the Hartley family membership, please? She had a tablet ready, pulled up the account. Richard and Margaret Hartley, primary members since 1998. Vanessa Hartley Preston, associate member since 2015. What are the annual dues? I asked. $45,000 for primary membership, $12,000 for associate. I nodded. And the contract terms? Annual renewal with 90-day notice required for cancellation by either party. However, ownership reserves the right to terminate membership immediately for cause. Dad finally found his voice again. Emma, what are you doing? I looked at him. Mom. At Vanessa. At the family who just tried to have me physically removed from my own property because of my clothes. Patricia, I said calmly, can you explain what constitutes cause for membership termination? She pulled up the relevant section on her tablet. Clause 7.3. Membership may be terminated for conduct unbecoming, harassment of staff or other members, damage to club property, or any behavior deemed detrimental to the club's reputation and values. And who determines what qualifies? I asked, though I already knew. Club ownership has sole discretion. I let that hang in the air for a moment. Dad's face had gone from red to pale. Emma, surely you're not suggesting. You demanded I be removed from the property, I said quietly. You called me an embarrassment. You said my presence reflected poorly on the family reputation. You wanted security to escort me out. I didn't know that I owned the club. Would it have mattered if I was just a regular member? Or a guest of another member? Does the dress code only apply to people you deem unworthy? Mom stepped forward, her hands clasped. Emma, please. You're upset and you have every right to be. We made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But don't do anything rash. Rash. I repeated. Like trying to have your daughter thrown out of a country club? Vanessa was crying now, mascara starting to run. Emma, I'm sorry. We're all sorry. Please. I stood there, feeling the weight of 10 years of dismissal, mockery, and casual cruelty. Every time they'd introduced me as our other daughter, with that apologetic tone. Every family photo where they positioned me at the edge of the frame. Every holiday dinner where my accomplishments, whatever they might have been, were glossed over in seconds while Vanessa's volunteer work earned 20-minute discussions. Catherine, I said, what would happen to someone who tried to have the owner removed from the property? He didn't hesitate. Immediate termination of membership. Addition to the permanently banned list. Revocation of all club privileges. And if that person was a board member? Board positions are contingent on active membership. Loss of membership means automatic removal from the board. Dad made a sound like all the air had left his body. Emma, please. I've been on that board for 12 years. I'm up for board president next quarter. You can't. Can't. I looked at him. Interesting word choice from someone who just tried to have me escorted off my own property. The lobby had attracted a small crowd now. Other members, staff, people who'd heard the commotion. I could see phones out, people recording. This would be all over the club's social circles within hours. Jordan leaned close and whispered, Emma, we should probably handle this privately. He was right. This was escalating beyond what I'd intended. But the anger, the years of accumulated hurt, was hard to contain now. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady. Dad, your board position is suspended pending review. Mom, Vanessa, your memberships are suspended for 30 days. Emma, please, Mom started. During those 30 days you're going to think very carefully about how you treat people. About how you judge them. About what really matters. And if we don't? Dad asked bitterly. Then the suspensions become permanent. And you can explain to your friends why you're no longer welcome at the club you've been members of for 26 years. Vanessa sobbed harder. Mom looked like she might faint. Dad just stood there, his entire sense of identity crumbling in real time. I turned to Catherine. Please escort them out. They're currently suspended members and therefore not authorized to be on the property. Emma, you can't do this, Dad said, his voice breaking. This club is our life. Our social network. Our friends. Everything. Then maybe, I said softly, you should have treated your daughter like she mattered more than a dress code. Security moved forward, professional and courteous. Mr. Hartley, Mrs. Hartley, Miss Preston, please come with us. They were walked out through the main entrance. The same entrance I'd walked through 30 minutes earlier, expecting a simple family brunch. The lobby was silent except for the fountain in the corner. Patricia approached carefully. Miss Hartley, that was bold. Too bold. I didn't say that. She almost smiled. Though you've given the members something to talk about for the next year. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. Can you have my assistant send me the membership review files? I want to look at how we handle dress code complaints. Make sure we're being consistent and fair. Of course. And Patricia? Thank you for backing me up there. That couldn't have been comfortable. You're the owner, she said simply. And for what it's worth, you've been the best thing to happen to this club in years. The changes you've implemented, the investments you've made, the staff notices. The members notice even if they don't know who's behind it. I didn't stay for brunch. Instead, I went to my car and sat there for 20 minutes, hands shaking with delayed adrenaline. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. First text from Vanessa. Emma, please, we can talk about this, please don't do this to us. Then Mom, your father is devastated. Is this really how you want to treat your family? Then an email from Dad. I'm calling the family lawyer. You can't abuse your position like this. There are bylaws. I turned off my phone. Jordan appeared at my car window, tapping gently. I rolled it down. You okay? He asked. Not sure yet. That was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever witnessed in my professional career. And I once watched a CEO fire his entire board during a holiday party. I laughed despite myself. Was I wrong? Wrong? Oh, brutal? Absolutely. Deserved. He considered. Probably. But Emma, you need to think about the next steps. They're going to fight this. Your dad's not wrong about bylaws. There are procedures for membership disputes. I know. And if this goes public, which it will, you'll face scrutiny. Vindictive owner bans family over dress code. That's not a great headline. He was right. The emotional satisfaction of the moment was already fading, replaced by the practical reality of what I'd just done. Set up a meeting with our legal team, I said. Tomorrow morning. I want to make sure everything I did was by the book. Already scheduled for 9 a.m. And Jordan, pull together data on dress code enforcement at the club for the last 5 years. I want to see how consistently it's been applied, particularly for board members and their families. You think there's a pattern? I think my father spent years on that board making decisions about who belongs and who doesn't. I want to know if those decisions were fair. Jordan nodded slowly. I'll have a report ready by tomorrow afternoon. I drove to my actual home, not the modest apartment my family thought I lived in, but the renovated Victorian I'd bought 3 years ago in a historic neighborhood. For bedrooms, original hardwood floors, a garden I never had time to maintain properly. Inside, I poured a glass of wine and sat in my living room, looking at family photos I'd kept despite everything. Christmas pictures, vacation snapshots, birthday parties. Evidence of a family that had existed at least superficially. My phone was still off, but I could imagine the messages piling up. The panic. The anger. The accusations. I'd humiliated them. Publicly. In front of their social circle, their friends, their entire support network. Was I wrong? The question sat with me through the afternoon, through dinner, through a mostly sleepless night. By Monday morning I had 17 voicemails. I listened to them in chronological order while drinking coffee. Mom, Sunday 2 p.m. Emma, your father had to be taken to the hospital. His blood pressure spiked. The doctor says he's fine, but this stress. This is what you've done to him. Vanessa, Sunday 5 p.m. Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm being asked to step down from the charity board. They don't want the controversy. My husband is furious. You've ruined everything. Dad, Sunday 8 p.m. I spoke with Harold Wellington. He's the club's longest-serving board member. He says what you did violates multiple bylaws and member protections. We're filing a formal complaint. This isn't over. More messages. Family friends asking what happened. Distant cousins I barely knew suddenly concerned about family harmony. Even Aunt Rachel, who I actually liked, leaving a gentle message suggesting I reconsider. At 9 a.m. I met with my legal team, 3 lawyers who specialized in hospitality, property law, and corporate governance. Tell me the truth, I said after explaining the situation. Did I overstep? Sarah Chin, my primary counsel, reviewed the documents. Legally, the ownership clause gives you broad discretion on membership termination. Your father's attempt to have you removed could reasonably be interpreted as conduct unbecoming or behavior detrimental to club reputation. But I could hear the but coming. But suspending a long-term board member without following the established review process could be challenged. The club's bylaws specify that board members are entitled to a formal hearing before disciplinary action. So I jumped the gun. You acted within your authority as owner, but you bypassed internal procedures. If they lawyer up, which it sounds like they're doing, you'll be tied up in disputes for months. I rubbed my temples. What are my options? Marcus, the corporate governance specialist, leaned forward. Option 1. Stand your ground. Fight every challenge. Win on technicalities. Probably succeed, but damage relationships beyond repair and generate negative publicity. Option 2. Reinstate the memberships with conditions. Require a formal apology. Implement a family code of conduct. Maintain your authority while allowing some reconciliation path. Option 3. Sarah asked. Sell the club. Walk away. You've already increased its value significantly. Take your profit and let someone else deal with the family drama. That option sat heavy in the room. I don't want to sell, I said finally. I bought the Westbridge because it had potential. And because I hesitated. Because some part of me wanted to prove I could succeed in their world. On my terms. Sarah nodded. Then we go with option 2. But we do it strategically. Not because you were wrong, but because you're choosing to extend grace they didn't offer you. I called Dad that afternoon. He answered on the first ring. Emma. I've reviewed the situation with my legal team, I said, keeping my voice professional. I'm prepared to reinstate your memberships under specific conditions. Silence. Then, what conditions? First, a formal written apology from each of you. Not for my benefit, I don't need it. But for the record, acknowledging that demanding someone's removal based on appearance was inappropriate. That's it. Second, you'll participate in a board review of the club's dress code policies. Make them clear, consistent, and fairly applied. No more subjective enforcement. We can do that. Third, and this is non-negotiable, you'll respect my ownership. No more undermining my decisions. No more using your board position to create problems. If you can't support the direction I'm taking the club, you can resign from the board. But you don't get to stay and sabotage. More silence. Then quietly, you've really built something, haven't you? Yes. I didn't know. I should have asked. Should have paid attention to what you were doing instead of assuming you were failing. Yes, I said again. You should have. Your mother and I were proud of Vanessa because she's visible. Her charity work, her social connections, it's easy to see and understand. What you do, it's behind the scenes. We didn't realize that I was successful, or that success could look different than what you expected. Both, he admitted. Oh, I'm sorry. Truly. What we did was wrong regardless of who you are or what you own. I'm reinstating your memberships effective immediately, I said. The apologies should be sent to Catherine Brennan by end of week. Board review of dress code policies begins next month. Thank you, Dad. This doesn't fix everything. You spent years making me feel like I wasn't enough. Like I didn't matter unless I met your specific definition of success. I know. I need you to understand, I didn't buy this club to impress you. I didn't build my company for your approval. I did it for myself. Because I'm good at it and I enjoy it and it matters to me. I'm starting to understand that. Good. Because I'm not interested in performing success for your benefit. Either you accept me as I am, genes and all, or this conversation is pointless. I accept you, he said quietly. I should have always accepted you. I'm sorry it took this to make me see that. We talked for another 30 minutes. Not solving everything but starting somewhere. The following Sunday I returned to the Westbridge for brunch. Jeans, blazer, comfortable flats. The exact same outfit. My family was already there at their usual table. I walked up and they stood. All three of them. Emma, Mom said carefully. Would you like to join us? I would. They'd saved me the seat with the best view, facing the terrace overlooking the golf course. We ordered food. Made small talk. Carefully navigated around the elephant in the room. Finally Vanessa spoke. I read about your hotel in Asheville. It's getting incredible reviews. Thank you. And the property in Savannah, the one you're renovating, it looks beautiful. I looked at her. You've been researching my company? I wanted to understand what you've built. And Emma, it's impressive. Really impressive. I've been telling my colleagues about it, Dad added. Your business model, the way you identify underperforming properties and turn them around, it's smart. Mom reached across the table and touched my hand. I read your apology, she said. All three of them. I meant every word. I know this doesn't fix everything, Dad said. But we want to try. To actually know you, not the version we assumed you were. I looked at my family, flawed, complicated, capable of cruelty but also apparently capable of growth. Hey, I said. Let's try. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. We didn't hug and cry and instantly become a perfect family. But it was honest, which mattered more. And when other members walked by and saw me sitting there in my jeans and blazer, laughing with my family at the table with the best view, nobody said a word. Because now they knew, the woman in comfortable clothes owned the entire place. And maybe more importantly, so did my family.